The year was 2247, and Earth was dying. Not from war or disease, but from too many people. 15 billion humans lived on a planet that could only feed 10 billion. The cities had grown so tall that sunlight never reached the streets below. The oceans were empty of fish. The forests existed only in old photographs. Commander Park Yuna stood on the observation deck of the colony ship Dawn and looked at Earth one last time. She was 42 years old, with short black hair and tired eyes. She had spent 20 years in the military and another 5 preparing for this mission. Now she was about to lead 3,000 people to a new world. "Commander, we are ready for departure," said her second officer, Kim Tae-woo. He was a young man, only 28, but he was one of the best pilots in the fleet. Yuna nodded slowly. "Begin the launch sequence." The Dawn was not a beautiful ship. It was built for survival, not for looks. It was 2 kilometers long and shaped like a giant cylinder. Inside were homes, farms, hospitals, schools, and everything else humans needed to live. The ship could support its passengers for 50 years if necessary. But their journey would only take 3 years. Their destination was Kepler 442b, a planet 400 light-years away. The Galactic Council, the organization of alien species that ruled most of the galaxy, had discovered this planet centuries ago. They had also marked it with a warning that made most species stay far away. Class 7, Deathworld, do not approach. Yuna had read the reports many times. Kepler 442b had gravity that was 1.8 times stronger than Earth. Its atmosphere contained high levels of methane and sulfur. Acid rain fell 300 days per year. The planet was home to predators that could tear through metal. The average temperature was either too hot or too cold, depending on the season. The Galactic Council thought humans were insane for wanting to live there. Yuna thought the Council did not understand humans at all. "Commander," Tae-woo said, "I am receiving a message from the Council station. Put it on screen." The face of an alien appeared. He was a Valorian, a species that looked like tall, thin birds with blue feathers. His name was Ambassador Krill, and he had been trying to stop this mission for months. "Commander Park," Krill said, his voice high and nervous, "I must ask you one more time to reconsider. Kepler 442b is not suitable for any intelligent life. Your people will die there." Yuna smiled politely. "Ambassador, we appreciate your concern, but Earth cannot support us anymore. We need a new home." "There are other planets," Krill said quickly. "Safe planets. The Council can help you find one." "Safe planets are already taken," Yuna replied. "Every good world in this sector belongs to someone else. The waiting list is 400 years long. We do not have 400 years. Krill's feathers shook with frustration. "But a death world? No species has ever colonized a Class 7 world. It is suicide. Then we will be the first." Krill stared at her for a long moment. Yuna could see that he truly did not understand. To him, choosing a dangerous planet when safe options existed was madness. He did not know that humans had always been this way. "Very well," Krill said finally. "The Council officially removes all responsibility for your fate. You go to your deaths by your own choice. Thank you, Ambassador. We will send you a postcard when we arrive." The screen went dark. Tae-woo laughed quietly. "I do not think he understood the joke, Commander. Most aliens do not understand human humor," Yuna said. "That is their loss." She pressed a button on her console. Her voice echoed through every speaker on the ship. "This is Commander Park Yuna. We are about to leave Earth orbit. I know many of you are scared. I know many of you are leaving family behind. I know that our destination is dangerous, but I also know something else. I know that humans have always survived. We survived ice ages. We survived plagues. We survived wars that almost destroyed us. We survived because we refused to give up. Kepler 442b is just another challenge. And we will survive it too. Prepare for departure." In the passenger sections, 3,000 people listened to her words. Some of them cried. Some of them cheered. All of them felt something stir in their hearts. It was the same feeling their ancestors had felt when they crossed oceans, climbed mountains, and explored unknown lands. It was hope. Dr. Choi Hana sat in the medical bay, checking her supplies for the 100th time. She was 35 years old and had spent her entire career preparing for this mission. She was responsible for keeping everyone healthy on a planet that would try to kill them every day. Her assistant, Nurse Jisok, walked in with a tablet. "The final health reports are in. Everyone is cleared for departure." Hana nodded. "Good. Make sure we have extra supplies of anti-radiation medicine. The reports say Kepler 442b has higher radiation levels than Earth." "Already done," Jisok said. He hesitated. "Doctor, are you scared?" Hana looked at him. Jisok was young, only 24. This was his first mission outside Earth's solar system. "Yes," she admitted. "I am terrified. But I am also excited. We are going to do something no one has ever done before. That is worth being scared for," Jisuk smiled. "My grandmother told me I was crazy for volunteering. She said I should stay on Earth and find a nice girl to marry." "What did you tell her?" "I told her that maybe I would find a nice girl on the new planet instead." Hana laughed. It felt good to laugh. There would be hard times ahead. But moments like this reminded her why she had chosen this path. The ship's engines came to life with a deep rumble. The dawn began to move, slowly at first, then faster and faster. Through the windows, Earth grew smaller. The blue and green planet that had been humanity's home for millions of years was now just a small dot in the darkness. Yuna watched it disappear and felt a strange peace. She was not sad to leave. Earth had given them everything it could. Now it was time to find a new mother. "Jump drive is ready, Commander," Taewoo reported. "Activate it." Space bent around the dawn. Stars stretched into long lines of light. And then, with a flash that was brighter than 1,000 suns, the ship vanished. 3,000 humans were on their way to a world that the galaxy had declared too dangerous for life. They were leaving behind everything they knew. They were flying toward certain hardship and possible death, and they were smiling, because humans had always been this way. They did not run from danger. They ran toward it. They did not fear the unknown. They explored it. They did not accept limits. They broke them. The galaxy would learn this lesson soon enough. Humans were not just another species. They were something the universe had never seen before. They were survivors, and Kepler 442b, the death world that had scared away every other civilization, was about to become their new home. The dawn dropped out of jump space 3 years after leaving Earth. The ship appeared in the Kepler system with a flash of light. And suddenly, a new star burned in the sky of an alien world. Commander Yuna stood on the bridge and looked at the planet on the main screen. Kepler 442b was larger than Earth, with swirling clouds of yellow and gray. Lightning storms covered half the surface. The oceans were dark green, almost black. Mountains rose so high that their peaks touched the edge of space. "It is beautiful," Taewoo said quietly. "It is deadly," Yuna replied. "But yes, it is also beautiful." The sensors began reporting data. Gravity, 1.84 Earth standard. Atmosphere, breathable, but with high concentrations of methane and sulfur compounds. Surface temperature, ranging from -40 to +60 degrees, depending on location and season. Native life forms. Thousands of species detected. Many classified as extremely dangerous. "Commander," the communications officer said, "we are receiving a transmission. It is coming from the orbital station above the planet." Yuna raised an eyebrow. "The council left a station here?" "Apparently so. They are requesting to speak with you." "Put them through." The screen changed to show the inside of a small space station. A single alien sat in the middle of the room. He was a Torani, a species that looked like large gray cats walking on 2 legs. His fur was old and gray, and his eyes were tired. "I am Observer Toran," the alien said. "I have been stationed here for 60 years. I am the only one who volunteered to watch this world. Why would anyone volunteer to watch a death world? Yuna asked. Torin made a sound that might have been a laugh. Because I wanted to see if anyone was ever foolish enough to try to live here. I have been waiting a long time. And now, here you are. Humans, the galaxy has been talking about you for years. Good things, I hope. Strange things, Toron corrected. The Council does not understand your species. You are not the strongest. You are not the fastest. You do not have natural weapons or armor. But somehow, you have spread across dozens of worlds in just a few centuries. And now you want to colonize a Class 7 death world. Yuna smiled. Is that so strange? Yes, Torin said firmly. It is. No intelligent species chooses to live in such danger. There must be a reason. Are you criminals? Exiles? Are you running from something? We are running from overcrowding, Yuna said simply. Earth has too many people. We needed more space. Torin stared at her. You left your homeworld because it was too crowded, and your solution was to move to a planet that will try to kill you every day. Yes, that is insane. That is human. Torin was silent for a long moment. Then he shook his head slowly. I must see this for myself. I request permission to join your landing party. Yuna considered this. Having an alien observer could be useful. If Torin reported back to the Council, other species might learn that death worlds were not as impossible as they thought. Permission granted, she said. But you follow our rules on the surface. If we tell you to run, you run. If we tell you to hide, you hide. This planet will not give you a second chance. Understood. 3 hours later, the first shuttle descended through the atmosphere. Yuna, Taewoo, Dr. Hana, and 12 security officers were aboard. Torin sat in the back, his large eyes watching everything. The shuttle shook violently as it passed through the clouds. Rain hammered against the hull. The pilot, a young woman named Suman, kept her hands steady on the controls. Acid rain, Suman reported. Hull integrity is holding. Beginning landing approach. Through the windows, the surface of Kepler 442b came into view. It was a landscape of dark forests, rocky plains, and rivers that glowed faintly in the dim light. The sun was smaller than Earth's sun, casting everything in shades of orange and red. There, Yuna said, pointing. That clearing near the river. Set us down there. The shuttle landed with a soft thump. For a moment, everyone was silent. They had arrived. After 3 years of travel, they were finally standing on a new world. Atmosphere check, Hana said, looking at her instruments. Air is breathable, but I recommend masks for the first few weeks. The sulfur levels might cause respiratory problems until we adapt. Everyone put on masks, Yuna ordered. Open the hatch. The door slid open. The air of Kepler 442b rushed in. It smelled like rotten eggs and smoke. The temperature was hot, nearly 40 degrees. The gravity pressed down on them like a heavy blanket. Yuna stepped out first. Her boots sank into soft, dark soil. She looked around at the alien forest. The trees were massive, with trunks as wide as houses and branches that twisted in strange directions. The leaves were purple and red instead of green. One small step for a human, Taewoo said, stepping out beside her. One giant leap for real estate prices, Yuna laughed. Focus, Taewoo. We need to secure the area. The security team spread out, checking for dangers. Torin stepped out of the shuttle last. The moment his feet touched the ground, he staggered. The gravity, he gasped. It is crushing me, Yuna nodded. Our homeworld had similar gravity. We are used to it. You might want to stay close to the shuttle. Torin looked at her with new respect. Your species evolved on a high-gravity world? Earth is considered a borderline death world by your council's standards, Yuna said. We have earthquakes, hurricanes, volcanoes, ice ages, and dozens of animals that can kill us. Kepler 442b is more dangerous, but not by as much as you might think. Torin said nothing. He was beginning to understand something important. Humans were not insane for coming here. They were simply used to living in danger. It was normal to them. A loud roar echoed from the forest. Everyone froze. The trees shook as something huge moved between them. Then it appeared. The creature was as big as a truck. It had 6 legs, armored skin, and a mouth filled with teeth as long as swords. Its eyes were small and red, and they focused immediately on the humans. "Nobody move," Yuna said calmly. The creature approached slowly, sniffing the air. It stopped 10 meters away and studied them. It had never seen anything like them before. Taewoo slowly reached for his weapon. "Commander? Wait." The creature roared again. Torin whimpered in fear. The security team raised their rifles. Yuna took a step forward. She looked directly into the creature's eyes. For a long moment, neither moved. Then Yuna smiled. "Hello, neighbor. We are going to be living here from now on. I hope we can get along." The creature tilted its head. It seemed confused by her lack of fear. Then, slowly, it turned and walked back into the forest. "What just happened?" Toran asked, his voice shaking. "Predators respect strength," Yuna said. "If you run, they chase you. If you show fear, they attack. But if you stand your ground, they think you might be dangerous too. That is a lesson we learned on Earth." Toran stared at her. "You have creatures like that on your home world?" "We have creatures called sharks, bears, crocodiles, and many others. We learn to live with them. We will learn to live with these too." She turned to her team. "Set up a base camp. We have a lot of work to do." As the humans began unpacking their equipment, Toran watched in amazement. They moved efficiently, calmly, as if landing on a death world was just another day at work. They laughed and joked with each other. They did not seem afraid. He realized then that the galaxy had made a terrible mistake. They had underestimated humans for centuries. They had thought them weak because they lacked claws or venom or thick skin. But humans had something more powerful. They had adaptation. They had determination. They had the ability to look at a planet that wanted to kill them and say, "This is home now." Kepler 442b would test them. It would try to break them. But Toran suspected it would fail, because humans did not break easily. They never had. 5 years had passed since the Dawn landed on Kepler 442b. The colony had grown from a small camp into a proper town. Buildings made of local stone and metal stood in neat rows. Fields of crops stretched across the cleared land. Children played in streets that had not existed when their parents first arrived. Dr. Hannah stood on the roof of the medical center and looked at what they had built. It still amazed her sometimes. They had taken a world that wanted to kill them and turned it into something beautiful. "Enjoying the view?" Jisok asked, climbing up to join her. "Always," Hannah said. "Remember when this was just a muddy clearing full of dangerous animals? I remember you treating 30 acid burn patients in the first week." Hannah laughed. "And now, we have only had 2 acid burns this entire year." People learned to check the weather reports. The acid rain still fell, but the colonists had adapted. They built covered walkways between buildings. They developed special coatings for their clothes and equipment. They learned to read the clouds and predict when the dangerous storms would come. Adaptation was the key to everything. Humans were not the strongest species in the galaxy, but they were the best at changing themselves to fit their environment. The gravity had been the first challenge. At 1.84 Earth standard, it made everything harder. Walking was exhausting. Lifting objects required more effort. The first generation of colonists had struggled constantly, but their children were different. Born on Kepler 442b, the young ones grew up with stronger muscles and denser bones. They ran and played in gravity that would have crushed most alien species. To them, it was normal. Hannah watched a group of children playing a game in the town square. They were jumping over obstacles, climbing walls, doing things that would have been impossible for Earth-born adults. Evolution was already working its magic. "The council observers are here again," Jisik said. "3rd visit this year. Let me guess. They want to know how we survived another season?" "Actually, They want to know how we tamed the stalkers. Hana smiled. The stalkers were the six-legged predators that had terrified Torin on the first day. They were still dangerous, of course. Nothing on Kepler 442b was truly safe. But the colonists had found a way to live alongside them. It had started with a man named Kang Do-hyun. He was a biologist who had spent his career studying animal behavior on Earth. When he arrived on Kepler 442b, he began observing the stalkers instead of just avoiding them. He discovered that they were not mindless killers. They were intelligent, social animals with complex behaviors. They hunted in packs and protected their young. They had territories and followed predictable patterns. Most importantly, they could be bribed with food. Do-hyun started leaving meat near the edge of the colony. Over time, the stalkers began to associate humans with easy meals. They stopped hunting near the town. Some of them even began to recognize individual humans and react differently to them. Now, 5 years later, there was a pack of stalkers that lived near the colony. They did not attack humans. In fact, they sometimes drove away other dangerous animals. The colonists called them the guard dogs, even though they looked nothing like dogs. The observers do not believe it is possible, Jisok said. They keep asking what technology we used. Tell them we used patience and food. Nothing more. They do not understand that answer. Hana sighed. Most alien species relied on technology to solve problems. They built shields to block dangers. They created weapons to destroy threats. The idea of simply learning to live with dangerous animals was foreign to them. But humans had been doing exactly that for millions of years. Dogs had once been wolves. Cats had once been wild predators. Horses had once been prey animals that kicked anything that came close. Humans had tamed them all through patience, understanding, and mutual benefit. Kepler 442b was no different. It was just a bigger challenge. Dr. Hana, a voice called from below. We need you at the greenhouse. Hana climbed down from the roof and walked to the agricultural section of the colony. The greenhouses were one of their greatest achievements. They had taken earth plants and modified them to survive in the alien soil. They had also started growing native plants that turned out to be edible. The head farmer, a woman named Bora, met her at the entrance. We have a situation. One of the workers got bitten by something while harvesting. Inside the greenhouse, a young man sat on a bench, holding his arm. His name was Junho, and he looked more embarrassed than hurt. I did not see it hiding in the leaves, he said. It looked like a small lizard. It bit me and ran away. Hana examined the wound. The bite marks were small but deep. The skin around them was already turning purple. This is venom, she said calmly. We need to get you to the medical center immediately. She had Junho carried to the medical center and began treatment. Thanks to 5 years of research, she had antidotes for most of the common venoms on the planet. Within an hour, Junho was out of danger. You were lucky, Hana told him. That creature is called a shadow biter. Its venom is not deadly, but it would have made you very sick for weeks. How do you know so much about these animals? Junho asked. Because I study them. Every time someone gets bitten or stung or infected, I learn something new. Every sample we collect teaches us about this world. We are building a library of knowledge that will help future generations. This was another human strength. They recorded everything. They shared information freely. When one person learned something, everyone learned it. Mistakes were made once, then never repeated. The Galactic Council had sent dozens of observers over the years. They came expecting to find a struggling colony on the edge of extinction. Instead, they found a thriving community that was actually growing. Observer Toran had stayed after that first landing. He had expected to watch humans die. Instead, he watched them build, adapt, and overcome every challenge the planet threw at them. He reported everything to the Council, but they did not believe him at first. They sent more observers. Those observers came back with the same reports. Humans were not just surviving on a Class 7 death world. They were succeeding. One evening, Toran joined a group of humans around a campfire. They had cooked meat from a native animal over the flames and were sharing stories. I do not understand your species, Toran admitted. Any other civilization would have given up by now. The challenges you face are endless. Why do you keep fighting? Commander Yuna, who had retired from active leadership but still lived in the colony, looked at him with a gentle smile. "Let me tell you a story," she said. "Thousands of years ago, my ancestors lived on a small peninsula surrounded by enemies. They were invaded again and again. They lost their land, their freedom, their dignity, but they never stopped fighting. They never stopped hoping, and eventually, they won their country back." "What happened to those enemies?" Torin asked. "Some of them became friends, some of them faded away. But my people remained. We remained because we refused to quit. That is what humans do. We do not know how to give up. It is not in our nature." Torin looked around the campfire. He saw humans laughing, singing, enjoying life on a planet that should have killed them all. They were not afraid. They were not depressed. They were happy. "Your species is terrifying," he said quietly. Yuna laughed. "Thank you, I think. No, I mean it. The rest of the galaxy fears your weapons and your ships. But that is not what makes you dangerous. What makes you dangerous is this." He gestured at the campfire, at the town, at everything they had built. "You look at the impossible and say, why not? You face death and make it your neighbor. You turn Deathworlds into homes." He stood up and bowed his head, a sign of deep respect in his culture. "The council was wrong about you. You are not insane. You are simply more than we ever imagined." Yuna raised her cup. "To Kepler 442b, our beautiful, deadly, wonderful home." Everyone around the fire raised their cups as well. "To home," they said together. And somewhere in the darkness, the stalkers howled in response, as if they too were celebrating. Humans had claimed another world, and the galaxy would never be the same. 20 years after the first landing, Kepler 442b was no longer a struggling colony. It was a thriving world with 3 cities and dozens of smaller towns. The population had grown to 50,000. Ships arrived regularly from Earth, bringing new colonists who wanted a fresh start. Ambassador Kang Do-hyun stood in his office in New Seoul, the capital city, and prepared for the most important meeting of his career. He was no longer the biologist who had tamed the stalkers. He had become the official representative of humanity to the Galactic Council. Today, representatives from 12 different species were coming to ask him a single question: how did humans do it? The meeting room was large, designed to accommodate beings of many different sizes. Some of the aliens were small, barely reaching Do-hyun's waist. Others were so large that they had to crouch to fit through the doors. All of them looked at him with a mixture of respect and desperation. The first to speak was Ambassador Vera, a member of the Corallian species. The Corallians looked like beautiful humanoids with blue skin and silver hair. Their homeworld was considered a paradise by galactic standards. "Ambassador Kang," Vera said, "my people face a crisis. Our world has reached its maximum population. We have no more space. Our waiting list for emigration to approved colony worlds is now 700 years long." 700 years. Do-hyun nodded sympathetically. "I understand. Many species face this problem. But you solved it," Vera said, her voice rising with emotion. "You took a world that should have been uninhabitable and turned it into this." She gestured at the city outside the window. "Our scientists say it is impossible. Our engineers say it cannot be done, yet here it is. How?" Before Do-hyun could answer, another ambassador spoke. This one was Greth, a massive being covered in thick brown fur. His species, the Mokar, were known as the strongest sentient beings in the galaxy. "We also need answers," Greth rumbled. "My people are warriors. We thought we were tough. But when we sent a team to survey a Class 5 death world, they lasted 2 weeks before begging to leave." Class 5. That is 3 levels below this planet. How do your soft, weak bodies survive here when my warriors cannot? Do-hyun smiled slightly. He had heard this kind of question many times before. Every species thought humans were weak because they did not have natural weapons or armor. They did not understand that human strength came from somewhere else entirely. Let me answer both questions together, Do-hyun said. But first, I need to explain something about my species. He pressed a button, and a holographic image of Earth appeared in the center of the room. This is our home world. According to your classification system, it is a borderline Class 4 death world. We have extreme weather, dangerous predators, toxic plants, and geological instability. Our sun gives us radiation that causes cancer. Our gravity is considered high by galactic standards. The aliens murmured among themselves. Most of them had never realized how dangerous Earth actually was. Humans did not evolve in safety, Do-hyun continued. We evolved in constant danger. Every generation faced new challenges. Ice ages that froze the world. Diseases that killed millions. Wars that destroyed civilizations. And every time, we survived. Not because we were strong or fast, but because we refused to die. He changed the image to show the history of human colonization. Ships spreading across space, landing on world after world. When we reached for the stars, we found the same thing. Every planet has dangers. Every colony faces challenges. But we had something that other species lack. We had experience. We knew how to face death because we had been doing it for millions of years. Ambassador Vera raised her hand. But how do you actually do it? What is the secret? There is no single secret, Do-hyun said. There are many small ones. Adaptation is the first. We change ourselves to fit our environment. Our bodies adjust. Our technology evolves. Our methods improve. Nothing is permanent. Everything can be modified. He showed images of the colony over time. The early camps, the first buildings, the growing cities. Cooperation is the second. Humans are social creatures. We work together naturally. When one person discovers something useful, everyone benefits. Our knowledge spreads rapidly. Our mistakes are learned from and never repeated. But the dangers, Greth interrupted. How do you face creatures that could kill you with one blow? How do you walk calmly through storms that would dissolve our armor? That brings me to the third secret. Do-hyun said. We do not fear death the way other species do. Do not misunderstand. We do not want to die. We value our lives greatly, but we accept that death is possible. This acceptance frees us. Instead of being paralyzed by fear, we calculate risks and take action. He smiled. There is a human saying, we do not negotiate with death. We debate it. We look at every danger and ask ourselves, how can I survive this? Then we find a way. The room was silent. The alien ambassadors were trying to process what they were hearing. For most of them, danger was something to be avoided at all costs. The idea of accepting danger and working around it was revolutionary. Can you teach us? Vera asked finally. Can your people help mine colonize dangerous worlds? Yes, Do-hyun said, but it will not be easy. Your people will have to change their way of thinking. They will have to accept hardship, face fear, and keep going even when everything seems hopeless. Many will want to give up. Those who stay will become stronger than they ever imagined. Greth leaned forward. My warriors thought they were brave. But they were brave only when they were winning. When the Class 5 world started defeating them, they lost hope. How do humans maintain hope when everything goes wrong? Do-hyun thought about this question carefully. It was perhaps the most important one anyone had ever asked him. We maintain hope because we have history, he said. Every human grows up hearing stories of people who faced impossible odds and won. We learn about ancestors who survived plagues, wars, famines, and disasters. We know that others before us have been in dark places and found their way out. This knowledge gives us strength. When things are bad, we tell ourselves, others have survived worse. So can I. Oh, he looked at each ambassador in turn. If your species wants to colonize Deathworlds, you must build this same tradition. You must celebrate those who struggle. You must honor those who persist. You must teach your children that hardship is not something to avoid but something to overcome. The meeting continued for several hours. Do-hyun explained human survival techniques in detail. He talked about psychology, engineering, medicine, and agriculture. He answered hundreds of questions. By the end, the ambassadors had a clear understanding of what they needed to do. They also had a deep respect for the strange, stubborn species that had turned a Class 7 death world into a home. One final question, Vera said as the meeting concluded. Do you think other species can truly learn to be like humans? Can we develop this same ability to survive? Do-hyun considered the question. I do not know, he admitted. Your species evolved differently. Your instincts are different. Your cultures are different. But I believe that any intelligent being can learn to face fear. Any society can learn to value persistence. The question is not whether you can become like us. The question is whether you are willing to try. Vera nodded slowly. We are willing. My people are desperate. We will do whatever it takes. Then welcome to the club, Do-hyun said. The universe is full of dangerous worlds, waiting for someone brave enough to claim them. Let us claim them together. As the ambassadors left, Do-hyun walked to his window and looked out at New Seoul. 20 years ago, this had been a clearing in a hostile forest. Now it was a city of lights and life. Humans had proven something important. They had proven that Deathworlds were not death sentences. They were opportunities. And now, for the first time, other species were ready to learn that lesson. The galaxy was about to change. Humans had opened a door that could never be closed, and behind that door lay a universe of possibilities. 100 years had passed since the Dawn first landed on Kepler 442b. The colony ship had long since been dismantled. Its metal used to build the first structures of New Seoul, but its name lived on in history books, in museums, and in the hearts of every human who called a death world home. Park Yuna had died at the age of 117, surrounded by 3 generations of descendants. Her funeral had been broadcast across 12 worlds. Even aliens who had never met her had mourned her passing. She had become more than a commander. She had become a symbol of human courage. Now, a century after her great journey, humanity had spread to 12 death worlds across the galaxy. Each world had its own challenges. Each world had its own story, but they all shared the same spirit that Yuna had carried with her from Earth. On Kepler 442b, the capital city of New Seoul had grown into a metropolis of 10 million people. The acid rain still fell, but children played in covered parks without fear. The stalkers still roamed the forests, but they were now protected by law. They had become symbols of the planet, appearing on flags and coins. The great-granddaughter of Dr. Hana, a young woman named Minju, stood in the Hall of Pioneers. This was a museum dedicated to the original colonists. Holograms of Yuna, Tae-woo, Hana, Do-hyun, and hundreds of others looked down from the walls. Each of these people made a choice, Minju said to the group of young students gathered around her. She was a teacher now, training the next generation of colonists. They chose to leave safety behind. They chose to face danger. They chose to build something new. But why? A young boy asked. His name was Jiho, and he was only 10 years old. Why did they not just stay on Earth and wait for a safe planet? Quote, because waiting meant death, Minju said. Earth could not support everyone, and the safe planets were already taken. They had 2 choices: stay and watch their children starve, or leave and give them a chance at a real future. But this planet is so dangerous, Jiho said. My grandmother told me about the early days. People died every week. Yes, they did, Minju admitted. But the ones who survived had children. Those children were stronger. They had children of their own, who were stronger still. Now, look at you. She gestured at Jiho's small but sturdy frame. You can run faster than any Earth-born human. You can breathe air that would make your ancestors sick. You are the result of 100 years of adaptation. The students looked at each other with new understanding. They had always taken their abilities for granted. They did not realize that they were already different from the humans who had come before them. After the museum tour, Minju walked to the edge of the city. There was a hill there, overlooking the valley where the dawn had first landed. A small memorial stood at the top, marking the spot where Yuna had taken her first step. Minju sat down and watched the sunset. The sky turned from orange to purple to deep blue. The stars began to appear, one by one, each one a possible destination. Her communicator beeped. She looked at the message and smiled. It was from her brother, Co Jun, who lived on another death world called Novus Prime. He was inviting her to visit for the planetary anniversary celebrations. I will be there, she typed back. Save me a seat at the bonfire. Traveling between death worlds was common now. Humans had built a network of ships and stations that connected all 12 colonies. They traded resources, shared knowledge, and visited each other regularly. They had become one people spread across many worlds. The Galactic Council had stopped warning species about death worlds. Instead, they now offered training programs based on human methods. Dozens of alien species had started their own colonies on dangerous planets. Not all of them succeeded, but many did. The galaxy was expanding in ways that had seemed impossible a century ago. Ambassador Vera's people, the Corellians, had established 3 colonies on Class 3 and Class 4 worlds. They had lost their fear of hardship. They had learned to adapt, and they credited humans with showing them the way. Even the Mokar warriors, led by the descendants of Greth, had founded a colony on a high-gravity world. They joked that they were trying to prove they were as tough as humans. No one believed them, but everyone appreciated the effort. The next morning, Minju attended a meeting of the Colonial Planning Committee. They were discussing the next wave of expansion. A Class 8 death world had been discovered on the edge of explored space. Class 8 is beyond anything we have attempted, said Director Song, an elderly man who had dedicated his life to space exploration. The gravity is more than twice Earth standard. The atmosphere is barely breathable. The predators are the most dangerous we have ever seen. So, it is a challenge, Minju said. That is what we do. We face challenges. The question is whether we should, another committee member said. We have 12 successful colonies. Perhaps it is time to consolidate rather than expand. It will never be time to stop, Minju replied. The moment we stop pushing forward, we start going backward. That is not who we are. Director Song nodded slowly. The volunteer list for the Class 8 expedition already has 10,000 names. People want to go. 1. Then let them go, Minju said. Give them the ships, the supplies, and the training. Let them prove once again that there is no world humans cannot claim. The committee voted unanimously to proceed with the expedition. 6 months later, a new colony ship departed from Kepler 442b. It was named the Second Dawn, in honor of the original vessel. 5,000 volunteers were aboard, each one knowing that they might not survive. Each one going anyway. Minju watched the launch from the same hill where she had watched the sunset. She thought about Yuna, about Hana, about all the pioneers who had come before. They had started something that could never be stopped. They had unleashed human ambition on a galaxy that had underestimated them. She thought about what Torin had said 100 years ago. Your species is terrifying. He had been right. But it was not a bad kind of terrifying. It was the terror of limitless potential, the terror of a species that looked at the impossible and said, why not try? Humans were not the strongest. They were not the fastest. They did not have natural weapons or armor. But they had something more powerful than all of those things combined. They had stubbornness. They had hope. They had the absolute refusal to accept defeat. The Second Dawn disappeared into the stars. Another group of humans was flying toward danger. Another world was about to be claimed, and somewhere in the galaxy, other species were watching and learning. They were seeing what humans had always known: that life was not meant to be lived safely. That comfort was the enemy of growth. That the only way to truly live was to risk everything. Kepler 442b had been just the beginning. It had proven that Deathworlds were not obstacles to be avoided. They were opportunities to be seized. And humans would keep seizing them until every dangerous world in the galaxy had felt the footsteps of humanity. Because that was what humans did. They survived. They adapted. They conquered. And they never, ever gave up. The stars waited. And humanity was coming. All of humanity. Forever.